Due to the graphic nature of its content, listener discretion is advised.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, the whole Cigars and Sea Stories team, Sebastian, Mike, Tim, and Bennett, sit down with Joe Williams of EVAC Art. And we just went through recently the bio on EVAC Art as far as the mission statement's concerned. But we want to hear a little bit more about you overall, Joe, as far as your Marine Corps experience and whatnot. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I spent 7 years in the Marine Corps, went in at the end of 2004. I served in Iraq in 2005. My MOS was aviation ordnance, which really I only spent a year and a half actually in my job field before I went on and did other things in the Marine Corps. But mainly I was stationed out of Asad throughout 2006, working on prowlers and Harriers, working on ordnance with them anyways. But, kind of where my story starts off and, kind of how it formed my life to where I'm at now was kind of an interesting story. So in 2005, I was actually stationed in Pensacola, Florida when Katrina hit, and after Katrina hit, we went in there and did rescue relief, and I broke my ankle down there. And as wonderful as the Navy doctors are, they completely fucked me over. In the sense that, I broke my ankle and, basically, and it was kind of funny, like when I broke my ankle was like pointing the other direction and
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was nasty. But I show up to the Navy emergency room and they basically told me like, oh, you have a severe sprain. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. My foot's pointing backwards. Like, so
yeah,
anyways,
no way.
And so basically they sent me back to the barracks like 5 o'clock in the morning. My sergeant comes and gets me and he goes, hey, you broke your ankle. We got to take you back to the hospital. It's like, no shit. Like, thank you. So basically what they did is just kind of cast me up and sent me on my way, and, got done with A school down there and then went to C school in North Carolina for Harriers. I thought my ankle healed up. I was feeling good about it. And, actually VMA Q2 needed another ordnance man to go over to Iraq with them. So I volunteered to go with them. So went to Iraq. I did some really good things. I picked up my plane captain billet, within 6 months, which usually that takes about a year to do. And, I was doing really good shit. And my XO actually called me into his office and was like, hey, you're doing great things. He was like, I actually want to send you to the Naval Academy. So basically, he told me that I was in the Naval Academy. And what was going to happen was within 24 hours, I would have to get out of the Marine Corps, join the Navy, and then they're going to send me from Iraq straight to the Naval Academy. Well, when I was walking out of my XO's office, my captain pulled me to the side and he was like, there's no fucking way in hell that I'm letting you become a ring knocker. So he ended up telling me that he had some connections within the MESEP program, the, enlisted to officer commissioning program. And, so basically, he ended up doing my MESEP package for me. We got back from Iraq. I was formally accepted into MESEP, and then from there, I was non-deployable. So they actually gave me two options before I classed up for the officers program: was go be a gate guard or go to the range. And I was like, I'm going to the fucking range.
Yeah, hell yes.
Yeah, and so I spent the next year and a half out on the range. Ended up getting my SAWIC.
Nice.
Yeah, and then end up going to MESEP or Boost program, MESEP Prep up in Naval Warfare College up in Rhode Island. Graduated from there from the 6-month program and got stationed at the University of Colorado in Boulder, where I was helping train the Navy ROTC kids that were going Marines. But when I was doing my NDOC PFT, I was about a quarter of a mile through the run, and then all of a sudden my ankle locked into place and left side of my body went numb, and it scared the shit out of me. I really thought I was having a stroke or something. Like, it was terrible. And they ended up sending me back to Colorado, saw a civilian orthopedic surgeon, and they did an MRI, and, the doctor came back and was like, asked me when I originally broke it. I told him '05, and he sat there and was like, man, whoever was your doctor completely screwed you over. He's like, you should have had surgery the day you broke it. What ended up happening was I had a huge chunk of bone still sitting in my ankle, and I ran on it so much it just acted like a meat grinder. So my bones started dying. All my nerves, tendons, ligaments were all destroyed. And, I've had about 8 surgeries to get it fixed, and, still in quite a bit of pain on most days. I mean, I have to get epidurals every 3 months to, really help out on that end.
So this
really,
I'm sorry. Just to back up, was this, they figured this out, like, you're already in the MESEP, you're already into school, you're running a PFT, and then they figure this out, and now it's like surgery time?
Oh, yeah. It was, well, I mean, yeah, the worst part is after we got the diagnosis, they were sending me to Breckenridge. There was a naval orthopedic surgeon up there at the time, and I sent him all over all of my MRIs and all that. And I was actually getting ready to drive to Breckenridge to go see him. And, I started driving there, and he goes, turn back around. He was like, I'm coming back up to Colorado, or I'm coming up to Boulder. And so he came up the next day and actually sat down with him and my colonel, and basically they sat down there and they told me, they're like, listen, your Marine Corps career is obviously over. But the worst part about it was they're like, well, there's a chance you're never going to be able to run again, and let alone walk right again. I mean, I've been in physical therapy for 8 years now. I have to use a cane to get around. And, it was devastating. I mean,
what a mind fuck, dude.
Oh, yeah. No, it absolutely was. I mean, it was, I loved being a Marine, and, wanting to be a Mustang and wanting to go officers. I wanted to be a leader of Marines. And, one day I think I'm fine, and the next day I can barely fucking walk. And it sent me down a fucking terrible path. And, for 2 years when I was up in Colorado, I mean, I was just having back-to-back surgeries. I've had, multiple surgeries. I've had hardware installation. I actually have all cadaver parts in my ankle right now, that was fucking weird, man. I was actually on a donor waiting list. I had to wait for some kid to die that was pretty much my age so I could get his ankle, which was kind of weird.
Jesus. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you never really think back on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the worst part about that, too, is I kept having all these surgeries, but the worst part was, man, I had an unlimited prescription to Oxycontin. That shit's just fucking heroin. That's basically all it is. And so for 2 years, especially after they told me the diagnosis and everything, I mean, it sent me down into a downward spiral. I mean, I was one of those, elite top 10% of the Marine Corps, like, shit, 300 PFT doing all that type of crap, and now I'm the broke dick. Right. Yeah, and so I mean that just put me down into a horrible depression. I was completely suicidal. I mean, there was one time, man, I took a fistful of pills and just was like, I don't even want to deal with this shit anymore. And luckily it worked out for me that I ended up, surviving that attempt. And really, I went in and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to go get help. And ended up going to a rehab facility that helps out, severely disabled veterans in Colorado. And there really was kind of a blessing in disguise, as much as I was like, oh, I don't need this place. It really kind of helped form who I am today, is because I realized how important art was in my life. I started sitting there drawing again, and I'm dyslexic, so I've always gravitated towards doing art. And, I really started drawing. I really started being creative again. And I started feeling better. I started, being myself again. And I was able to express a lot of things that were going on in my head and putting them out on paper or putting them onto a sculpture that really helped me out. And so, yeah, I mean, after that whole experience and having to deal with, the whole or the medical retirement process and all that crap, that took about 2 years of going through all the VA bullshit of getting your disability ratings and doing all that, I knew I wanted to pursue art. And the other thing I wanted to pursue was still helping out helping out, Marines or helping out veterans, especially.
Right.
Because I wasn't the only one in this boat. There's a lot of other people that have, had similar situations that I was in and all that. And, it's devastating when you can no longer be yourself. And, and that's really what I'm trying to do right now with EVAC is really help these guys find a new voice and be able to find a creative outlet. So, they're not sitting there drinking. They're not sitting there popping these pills, sitting at home feeling sorry for themselves with a barrel of a gun in their mouth.
And no, you're exactly right, because we've all felt that isolation, that it's past the point of, oh, I'm just going through the blues. It's like, no, you're isolated. You're not communicating. So when you steered yourself down this pathway of art, did you already have a business idea in mind? Did you have a social venture? Because you and I met, you, Bennett, Tim, and I each met as we attended entrepreneurship boot camp for veterans in Syracuse University. But did you already have the business in mind? Were you already working with people? How did that evolve?
No, it really didn't. It wasn't until my second year of going to Kansas City Art Institute that I really came up with this idea. There was a couple other veterans that I was going to school with, and one of them was a sculptor too, but we were sitting there talking one day, and we were like, shit, what the hell are we going to do when we graduate? We don't have the facilities at the school to use anymore. We don't have the welders. We don't have the foundry. We don't have the means to make the art that we want to do. And so really it just came up to this idea of me opening up my own studio and allowing veterans to come in there, work for free, and, be able to have a place to actually, make some stuff. And I happened to mention it to one of my instructors, and, my instructor was like, you should play around with this idea. And, that's when I started to search for, veteran entrepreneurship programs of how to create a business and how to do this. And there's a wonderful organization here in Kansas City called the Kauffman Foundation. It's $1 billion endowment, basically, for entrepreneurship. I sent them an email because they have this thing called 1,000,000 Cups, and it's for entrepreneurs to come in. They talk about their ideas, and, it's kind of like what we did at Syracuse, really, but in a civilian setting.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I mentioned the idea to them, and, they were like, well, I'm not sure how we can help you out. It kind of doesn't fit our mission, blah, blah, blah. And a couple weeks later, the director of the entrepreneurship program at Kauffman Foundation got a hold of me. And awesome dude, his name's Jonathan Robinson, and he's actually a former Marine as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he really got on board with the idea, and they actually sent me up to Techstars up in New York, which that was a fantastic program as well. And that's actually how I got into the EBV program. But when I was up at Techstars, I was just playing around with this idea of getting my own studio and whatnot. And I was already, I was up there talking to these, millionaires and billionaires about my idea. And it really just expanded into this huge ass project that I made now of what I want to do to help veterans out, and really went beyond this like little studio of mine to actually creating a full on art center for veterans where, we house all different types of studios, whether it's a wood shop, steel shop, ceramic studio, painting studio, digital media. We'll have all that accessibility there for veterans. And so, yeah, that really got me into the entrepreneurship mindset. And that's really, got me to EBV. EBV really helped me form out the idea. And then since EBV last year, I've really been implementing our resources and programs to really start helping out veterans.
Beautiful. That's awesome.
I love that incorporates other veterans. Like the mission statement itself incorporates other veterans in their betterment. I think a lot of veterans will benefit from using art as an outlet, because if you think about it, it's one of the few ventures that you can do, or few, occupations or pastimes, or however you use it, It's one of the few that seems to be utter freedom. It is purely your creative intent. No one can tell you if it's wrong or right. It's literally your own thing. So that seems to, I mean, at least in my opinion, it seems like that would be the biggest benefit I would see.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of veterans across the country about this and, getting them involved with our programs and resources. And the funny thing is a lot of veterans, even active duty, they're making art. They just don't realize it. I mean, I remember being on the range and, we would sit there, you have all the damn clips, the millions of clips that, we have just in the ammo cans and all that. We always used to take the clips out and we would make little sculptures out of them, connect them together and
the stripper clips.
Yeah, the stripper clips.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we would make little sculptures out of that. And I remember my Staff Sergeant Garcia that we had on the range, he was always sitting out there with his camera. I mean, always taking damn pictures. Even when I was in Iraq, our Sergeant Major that we had out there, I mean, I never once not saw him with a camera in his hand. And a lot of these guys are making art. They just don't realize it. And to me, veteran art is more important than any artist, civilian artist that's out there now and what they're creating. Veteran art just has so much meaning and so much depth behind it because, it's an outlet for that person. It's a creative outlet that, gets them out of their head and lets them focus on whatever they're creating, and that's a major important part for me in this whole program. And it's just what I tell veterans, I'm not here to make you a career artist. If you want to be a career artist, I'll help you out. But it's more about helping guys find a path that's positive and constructive in their life.
Hey, Joe, This is Bennett. So one of the things that you and I have talked about in the past, and that I love that you really push about art in general, is that it's not just visual. Like on your website, I mean, you've got sculpture, you have, painting, you have that, but also music, performing arts, writing, all that type of stuff. And that's what this is all about. It's about art as a whole in general. And I love that you see it that way, because a lot of people just see art as, just painting or sculpting or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of people sit there and they think art is this white-walled gallery world, and that's not art. I mean, it is art, but it's not. It's not what we're focusing on. And that's what's really awesome about what I've started here is we have the potential to do anything that we want. We can create anything we want, whether that's somebody coming to help, wanting to start a business doing something, if somebody just wants to, learn how to paint as a hobby. And actually what we're expanding into now as well is I'm going to be opening up a restaurant in Kansas City that's completely veteran run.
No shit.
Yeah, and so that's actually the cool thing of what we can do is...
Please tell me you're serving more than just MREs or...
Well, I know. All I know
or cafeteria food.
Sloppy Joe MRE all day. You can keep that wheat snack bread, but the listening audience, they know about my affinity for the Sloppy Joe. Anyhow, I'm sorry.
So make sure that you get your beer taps from Brian, though.
I'm just saying, you can steal the name The Sloppy Joe, by the way. I'm just, if that's what you want to call it. Anyhow, it's up to you.
No, I mean, but even bringing up Brian with the beer stuff, I mean, I've actually had a few veterans here in Kansas City that they want to be brewmasters. I mean, that's art in itself. Being able to...
Have you seen
something.
Brian's beer taps that he made?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man. Well, he does the calls. The custom, which you've actually had on your website, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean...
As art, because it is art.
That is art. I mean, he's creating something from nothing. And to me, that's the definition of art, I mean, it has a function, it has a purpose, but at the same time, he's sitting there on the lathe, forming out these duck calls and putting them together. That's working with your hands. That's creating art.
But those things are gorgeous, man. Those things.
Oh, yeah.
But he does the same thing and he makes beer taps.
Yeah.
So they're just as cool.
Yeah, I mean,
and the beer taps are much more useful.
Yes, I would agree. At least for us.
Oh yeah, I know. I actually cracked open a beer. I was like, talking with a bunch of Marines, got to be drinking. So
Nice.
that's the way it is. But yeah, I mean, that's the best thing about what I'm really doing is that we have the potential to do everything. And I'm actually really excited about this restaurant that we're going to be adding in, because the cool thing of what we're doing with this is I'm actually bringing in a big name chef here in Kansas City and a big time general manager. And basically what we're going to do is just house it with veterans that want to learn about the culinary arts or want to learn how to run a restaurant. They come and work for us for a year, and, you know, we send them out on their ways.
That's awesome.
You know, you could
Yeah,
since
I
you're
like
in the
that whole
building
idea
stage.
because- Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you could set up, since you're in the pre-building stage, set the facility up to be able to take that down on video a little easier, and then you might be able to put out some documentaries. I mean, cooking shows are huge, so if you get a veteran learning how to cook documentary going through, I mean, that might be something.
Yeah, actually, what recently just came up, so I'm actually going to be doing a full pitch for USAA. They're extremely interested in what I'm doing with the Arts Center, and, you know, because really what I'm doing in Kansas City is setting up programs and resources right now to make it into a national model. And so basically, like with programs that we do, we have workshops, any type of workshop that you can imagine, you know, painting, photography, writing, you know, what have you. You know, it's free for veterans, but we open it up to the public as well for a fee, and that fee allows veterans to come in for free. But the most important part about this is the communal aspect of it. You know, a lot of veterans don't want to get back into society, or they don't know how to talk about their experiences. But by getting into these workshops and creating art with civilians, they're able to ask those questions and answer those questions that, you know, people may be too afraid to ask, or veterans may be too afraid to answer. And that's the beautiful thing about art, is you can make something that answers those questions. And yeah, and so basically with these programs, what we're doing is actually setting up national models. Now we have national partnerships to where we'll be taking these programs that we have and be able to have workshops all over the country, you know, for people to attend and really enjoy. But the funny thing is, you talk about the documentary, which brings me back to my point, is USAA is extremely interested in what I'm doing, and a film production company recently reached out to me about making a documentary about what I'm doing. Last Friday, we just had a big art gallery show at one of the major galleries here in Kansas City. I brought in a Marine Corps veteran. He's a former scout sniper. His name's Taylor White. He's a phenomenal artist now. He does a lot of painting and performance art. But we brought him in. You know, it was a fantastic show. I mean, we had about 10,000 people walk through the gallery, which was absolutely fantastic. Wow. But the weird thing was, now I have this documentary crew like following me around everywhere with cameras. So it's like, I mean, we're getting the exposure. We'll be able to really showcase, you know, what we're able to do, you know, help veterans out. But I'll tell you, it's weird, man, having video cameras follow you around everywhere.
Yeah.
Is it right now too? Are they there?
No, they're not here right now.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, no, I told them about it. Yeah, that'd be cool if they would have came for it. Maybe on another show we can get them to come in and we'll actually do it. Or actually, shit, I'll go down to the production studio and get a little better quality, and we can have them record it off that.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
Hey, Joe, this is Tim.
Hey.
Hey, so first thing, great to talk to you again. Unfortunately, I can't see you because I'm like, I don't know, a couple hundred miles away. But yeah, I can't wait to meet up with you again here one of these days. I got to get back out to Kansas City because that's kind of my old stomping grounds too.
Oh yeah.
But Taylor White, dude, I got one of his pieces on my wall right now.
That's fantastic.
His drawing of the Scout Sniper rifle. That thing's awesome.
Oh yeah,
But,
no, that guy's got a lot of, you know, he's got a bright future in the arts ahead of him. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can't believe you got 10,000 people coming through the gallery that day. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, the outreach and the support. I mean, people want this now. I mean, a lot of my patrons and donors that I have, I mean, you know, they're foregoing those civilian artists, and, you know, they understand the importance of the art that veterans are creating, and they're really getting behind it and showing their appreciation for it, which, you know, it's mind-boggling the success that it's really had. So,
yeah. And you brought up a real important point a minute ago that I just wanted to kind of hit on. a lot of the stuff that you're working towards, what it's really doing is you're not only creating a community of veterans that are interested in creating art, but you're also developing a community that gets veterans to interact with civilians and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important, because so often, veterans, either they isolate themselves, completely from each other, or they isolate themselves only to that small group of veterans that are still around them, and they don't get out there into the larger world and participate and, really explore their potential, to give back and contribute to society at large. And I think what you're doing, by connecting the dots here and getting all these folks in front of each other and creating the support for this is just, that's you talk about a national model. I mean, that's fabulous. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the essence of what we're trying to do, is because there's that gap in between military service and civilian counterparts. Since, World War I, even to the present, there's always been that gap there when veterans come back home and people don't know how to react. And by using art, we're able to start bridging those gaps and to really be able to make something. And really, I mean, it's about creating a new culture. I mean, that's really what it is. Coming from the military culture back to a civilian culture, it's a difficult transition. And that's really the beautiful thing of art is, we're able to bridge those gaps.
Right. Well, and the other thing,
awesome,
too, you just hit on something right there, talking about post, World War I, World War II, post-World War II veterans in comparison to modern time veterans, so to speak, or GWAT veterans. GWAT veterans right now are getting out of the military as a whole, and about 15% of us, just to quote Boots to Business, EPV, Institute of Veteran Military and Families, right now, about 15% of veterans are pursuing some form of entrepreneurship, whether it's a social venture, a for-profit, whatever it winds up being. 15%. Post-World War II, it was 49%.
Oh, yeah.
We're pursuing that pathway. 49%. So kind of with that being said, though, has there ever been a moment where you as an entrepreneur, I know there have been for me and a few of the other people we've spoken with, but have there ever been a moment where when you're going through now as a civilian and you're doing things in the business realm where you're like, oh shit, like you're fucked civilian wise or what have you, and you're like, just rely on your training, and basically went back to that Marine, mentality or that military experience? Has there been anything that's come up?
Yeah, honestly, that's every day for me. It really is. The stress is completely different from military stress to entrepreneurship stress. I mean, they're two completely different ballparks, but by being able to understand the military stress and how to handle those situations, it's definitely translated over into the entrepreneurship stress. And it kind of all goes back to even just writing a business plan. When you write, the first thing in the, especially Marine Corps, you get your orders, and, as soon as the first bullet comes down range, that order goes completely out the fucking window. And it's been this, it's been the same exact way with, my business plan and my business model is, something comes up new every day and my whole business model just goes to shit. And it's like, okay, well, how do I, adjust? How do I adapt and overcome? And that's really the beautiful thing about, I've always thought about that question, why are Marines better entrepreneurs, is simply that fact of we have the ability to adapt and overcome, especially with the sense that, this started off for me as just getting my own little studio, and then attention started coming. I use that attention more as like those are the rounds that are coming down range, and every day it gets bigger and bigger and into something else. But being able to thrive on that stress, really, that's what really sets me apart from, civilian entrepreneurs or guys that just go to business school or whatever. By having that military training, that's really what sets me apart when I go and talk to people and do this type of stuff. is I rely on that training to build the confidence in what I'm doing, in that when my plane does go to shit, I can just adjust course and continue on with the mission.
Well, so there's another aspect to military life that probably helps out, and that's in laughing about bullshit. But speaking of laughing, going straight back to 05, 06, what is something, give us a little tidbit, a little experiential node, so to speak, of hilarity that has ensued for you.
Oh man, it's there's just this one story. I mean, I tell the story all the time. I fucking love it. So when we were in Asad, we were in those like big ass cement like hangars that the Iraqis had. You know, and we were still in tents at the time, and we are getting ready to make that transition over to the tents or whatever. But we had this retired major from the Marine Corps that he was awesome, man. Like, you know, you get those care packages, but I mean, he was the shit about it. He was like, whatever the fuck you guys want, I'll send it out to you. And like, we were kind of like joking around, and, you know, we were sending him like TV shows that, you know, that we wanted to watch. He would record them for us and send us out like DVDs of the TV shows.
Nice.
And then we asked him for a Nintendo 64 with Bond and WrestleMania. And so he actually sent us out the N64. But the other thing he did was he sent us out
old school, baby.
Oh, I know. I loved it. But the other thing is he sent us out golf clubs, and he would send us out about 10,000 golf balls a month, you know, just range balls.
Nice.
But what we used to do is we used to climb on top of the hangar. And, you know, there was this open field towards the on the south side of Al Asad where the perimeter fence is. We would just start hitting golf balls out there into this open field that we have. And we would sit out there, you know, hit the balls, you know, we'd go out there and collect them. And it was me, my buddy Allie, and a captain. And we were sitting out there, and we were going and, you know, picking up the balls, and we see this Humvee going across the perimeter road. And all of a sudden, you just see this Humvee just slam on its brakes. And, you know, this Marine gets out and was like, and just starts screaming, "You fucking retards, it's a minefield." And so we were like, oh shit. Like, and, you know, I looked at my buddy, and we were like, oh shit. And of course our captain is just gone. Like, he just fucking disappeared. And so the Humvee, like, you know, hauls ass around the road and comes back, and it was this Gunny and EOD. I mean, he just lit into us, and he was like, "You fucking retards, like, you know, we haven't swept that shit out, and there's mines all over that fucking place," and da-da-da. He's like, "Who's the other guy we were with?" And we were like trying so hard not to drop dimes on the captain because he was cool as hell. But that was just the funniest story, man. And then from then on, man, we sat out there every fucking day trying to hit a mine with the golf ball. That was basically it.
Dude, you have no idea how
Of course.
man.
Yep.
I was in Alice in 2008 and had a shop set up in one of those big concrete bunker hangars you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that whole area south of the airfield, we turned that into not outside the wire where the minefield was, but just inside of it. Between there's like an inner outer wire and an outer wire, and we turned that into a freaking drop zone for jumping out of airplanes.
Nice.
And apparently you guys had some short hits and freaking couldn't get it out there, and we wondered where the hell these golf balls came from. So now I know.
Yes. That's awesome. Yeah, small core.
Yeah, that was basically it. Now I'll tell you another story. Oh man, what the greatest way of passing information to a Marine, especially in a war zone, is put that information on the door of the porta-shitter, man. That's the only way, you know, Marines are going to get their information. And I remember, like, we had this porta-shitter, and, like, you know, inside the door had all the different types of landmines that were out there, you know, so we could be aware of what was going on. And we had this, like, big-ass oil drum that we had to take over to the depot, and we were offloading the oil drum, and we were sitting there, and Allie, the guy that I was with, you know, we're offloading it, and, like, we set it down, and he just looks down, and he goes, "Fuck, dude, that's a mine." And we were like, it just looked like, you know, just some dilapidated metal, just, you know, rusting away in the sand. We were like, you know, it's like, is it? And we're like, you know, we're ordnance, we should probably know better. But, you know, we call EOD, but the Army EOD shows up, and actually the Army MPs showed up first. And, whatever Lance Corporal equivalent over, Army, this little dumb motherfucker, he sat there and he was like, no, it's just a piece of scrap, it's just a piece of scrap metal. And he goes up to fucking kick the thing. My buddy just tackles him and was like, you fucking idiot. We don't know what that is. So we ended up both getting arrested for assaulting the MP. Then the EOD shows up, and it was actually Marine EOD that shows up. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's a fucking landmine. Definitely. It was like, man, you fucking idiot. Like,
oh, Jesus. Oh,
yeah.
That would have been a big kaboom, too.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I
God
know.
bless the Army.
Yeah, I know. The best part was that Army guy, since he reported it in, the Army ended up giving him some type of fucking medal, and Ali saved his life, and he got good pat on the back.
Oh, go figure.
And an arrest report.
Yeah, and arrest report.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those allegations didn't stick.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there was so much. I don't know. There was just always so much dumb shit over there. I look back on it now, and I think it's fucking hysterical. You know how they had those like civilian garbage truck drivers that went around? Some Marine recon unit was coming through and dumping off a bunch of like ammo cans, and they're completely disposing it wrong. But the civilian garbage truck guy comes up and was like, you guys ordnance? We're like, yeah. And he goes, well, I had this thing. I was getting ready to crush it in the truck, this ammo can. I was getting ready to crush it. And he was like, it's pretty heavy, though. I'm thinking there's something in it. I go up and look at it. The safety wire's still on it. I'm like, no fucking way. This thing is full. Open the damn thing up, fucking full of Mark 19 rounds.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, like,
That would have been
green
awesome
tip
in
or
a
some shit.
trash compactor.
Oh, yeah. That would have been really interesting to see that thing go through the trash compactor. That would have been a nice little fireworks show.
A freaking shit show.
It probably wouldn't have done anything. They still got to arm. They still got to spin, like, what? 30 feet?
I think they got to spin like 30 feet or something like that before they actually explode. But
maybe blew their primers or something.
Yeah, that definitely would have been.
If you crush it enough, I think you're probably going to eventually overcome all the safeties.
Right. And then it'll just blow up in there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and the other thing, too, is what if you crush it enough to where, like, one of them's in there? Or it goes in, one of them's in there, and then it stays in there for a little while and blows up at some other point in time. Or if they dump it into a fucking burn pit.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. They would have taken that thing and dumped it into the burn pit. Like,
right.
That thing would have blown to all sorts of hell.
Oh, Jesus.
Or the driver gets accidentally framed for an IED driver. He's like, the back of his truck starts exploding. He gets shot.
Yeah, see? Good job, Recon. See what the hell happened
thanks,
there?
Bennett.
Kiss my ass.
Recon don't give a shit.
Not really. We just dropped that shit and run away.
Yeah, we can get more later. As we're sitting there, we gotta count our goddamn rounds, and Recon's sitting out there like, you guys have to do that shit? Like,
exactly. We just grab handfuls of brass and just load our shit and roll away. Fuck it. Mark 19 rounds. Fuck it. Leave them.
we can always get more. That's hysterical. Yeah, there's another one. So being aviation ordnance, there's always this joke on the airfield. We wear the red cranials, if you're on ship with red shirt.
Right.
And we actually had these T-shirts, it says, if you see me running, just try to keep up.
Right.
And, yeah. And so we always used to fuck with people like, we'd be getting ready to send a jet out, and the last thing we do is, we put the bombs on and all that, and the plane goes to the Kayla, and that's where we arm it. But no electrical power or anything like, can go on the jet at the time, but we'll sit up there and load the bombs, and, people are, working on airframes or, working on the electronics, doing whatever. So there's usually about like 20 people around the jet, and we put in the bombs, and we would just sit there and go 1, 2, 3, and just all of us would start taking off fucking running.
So fucking wrong.
Yeah. Everybody would look at us, and they just see these red like helmets like run away from the jet, and the next thing you know, like 30 people are behind us, like, what the fuck is going on? And we're like, I don't know, we're just running. And they're like, fuck you. Like,
shit, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. We always used to fuck around with people.
Hey, Joe, I got a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to EVAC and the whole business thing, you know, with what we learned in EBV, you know, the business plan, it's a living, breathing creature. And, you know, you talked earlier about how kind of everything just went to shit, you know, after things started happening. So I'm just curious, how often nowadays do you actually pull out your business plan and look at it and do stuff?
Yeah, every day. I literally rework it every day. When I was at EBV, man, I had a 120-page fucking LOI, and that was another thing that was great, especially, you know, doing my officer training, you know, was, you know, learning how to write LOIs and writing orders and doing all that. And that's the way I was approaching my business plan was, you know, writing it out like an LOI. And, you know, I had this 120-page just full of just garbage, basically. And I have another mentor in Kansas City. He owns a seed company here called Think Big Partners, but he's actually a former Army Chinook pilot. You know, and I had him take a look at my business plan. I literally handed it to him. He looked at it and just threw it in the garbage.
What did LaHovitz say to you at EBV?
Oh yeah, well,
he was probably like, "What the fuck is this?"
Oh yeah, that was. I mean, they were like, you know, it's a great business plan. Everything's really detailed out, and you know, looks good. I trimmed it down to about like 60 pages when I was there. But yeah, I came back to Kansas City and I was meeting with my mentor and I handed it to him and he literally just threw it in the trash. I was like, son of a bitch, like. He was like, you need to get it down to 20 pages. And, you know, really with my business plan, it really does evolve every day because something new comes up. Like, you know, the restaurant idea that I had really came out of a couple veterans that were interested in doing culinary arts. You know, and I grew up actually in a restaurant. I grew up in the restaurant industry. So, you know, I know how hard it is. Like, you know, if you want to be a chef, you know, you got to really start from, you know, washing the dishes and moving your way up. You know, and so that was something that I ended up adding into the business plan. But one thing that I have learned, right, because now I have it down to about 20 pages, you have to really leave it open for interpretation. That's the biggest thing. It's just using it as guidelines and not actual, you know, set in stone type of thing, because every day it's going to change something new, you know. And I remember going to Techstars and actually Jeff Bezos was giving his talk to us and somebody asked him the question, you know, what do you do as a CEO? And he was like, I have no fucking clue. He was like, I really don't. He was like, every day something new happens, but you have to learn what you need to handle, what you need to take care of. But more importantly, you have to know what to give to your team. And that's really the biggest thing, is really getting a good team around you when you're opening up, whether you have co-founders or whether you have employees like I do. You know, you have to be able to trust them to do their job and, you know, to do it well, because there's just so much shit I can't handle anymore. It's just, I can't possibly do it. And that's where my business plan comes into effect, that I can give to them. I can give them the general idea of what I want and really let them run wild with it. And yeah, actually a cool, you know, talking about like, you know, having employees and co-founders and that type of thing. My mentor here in Kansas City, he was doing a speech for veteran entrepreneurs here. And he brought up a really good point. You know, he was talking about the business plan, like leaving it open in general and being able to have those people really run with it, or give them the ball and really run with it. But the coolest thing he said was, you're going to have somebody come in here that's all tatted up, long ass hair, whatever. Don't dismiss them. Do not write them off. Do not do anything, because that could be the greatest person for your company. And that's really what I've been trying to do, especially, and that's really the success of where my company is at is
that's like half the veterans now in
yeah
the country.
No, I mean,
and then throw a beard in on them too.
Yeah, no, I mean that's exactly it. And you know, by having those guys and really letting them do their thing is the greatest thing. And you really can't dismiss these people, because the way entrepreneurship is going, especially with the younger generation, is it is going to be those tatted up, bearded, long haired, you know, people. It's really getting away from that 80s style thing of suit and tie business and all that. Yeah, I mean, that's really what's led to my success is I'm finding, you know, young and hungry people that want to make a name for themselves. You know, I could sit there and go hire somebody that's been in, you know, business for 20, 30 years or whatever, go hire a marketing director that's done this for years and just whatever. You know, that's not going to help your company out. You know, they're just going to do things that they know and, you know, kind of play it on the safe side. Whereas you can bring in these young guys and especially veterans that really do want to make a name for themselves, and they'll bring you so much more to the table than you could ever think of. You know, and that's what really the success of this is, you know, people bringing me new ideas of how we can better expand it, things I'd never thought of. So.
Hey, Joe, just to bring up another thing, it's a question for you, because I know you said that you went to the Kansas City Art Institute, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of as for our listeners that may be interested in like educational avenues, if they really wanted to like get out and get into an art program, or even like the resources through the VA, like with Voc Rehab, because I know you've dealt with that too. Just kind of like an overview of the experience that you have with education, specifically for art and how it pertains to veterans and whatnot.
Yeah, a couple things actually. One thing that I found really interesting about actually having a bachelor's in fine arts is I learned more about business and entrepreneurship through art. You know, that's
pretty cool.
Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of other business people. You know, I've got a lot of other friends that, you know, went and got their degree in business or entrepreneurship. And really, the one thing that I've discovered is, you know, these guys that go to school for business are just end up being these cookie cutter molds of what business was like in the 80s and 90s, you know, and how those were set up. But by going and actually getting my fine arts degree, you know, I still take, you know, some of these entrepreneurship classes and whatnot, but by having an actual fine arts degree, I'm a lot more creative than some of these guys that are coming out with their businesses. You know, I'm able to really think outside the box of, you know, of what's the realm of what we can actually do within the business. You know,
because at the core of it, you still have the same general education.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's really not that hard to go and, you know, take some entrepreneurship classes, some business classes. But what's hard to do is being a creative thinker and learning how to think creatively. And I think that's where, you know, a huge benefit for me was going to get my art degree was, you know, I'm able to think outside the box. And it was something that's really interesting. You know, a lot of these kids that are graduating from art school now aren't necessarily getting art-related jobs. I know one of my friends just graduated, and this, you know, finance business actually hired him to come in to be their creative thinker. You know, they have problems or whatever. All these guys can only think about, you know, how to solve this from a business aspect. Well, now they're bringing in an artist to actually think outside the box to actually, you know, solve these problems. So, you know, that's great in a way of, you know, being creative thinkers. But for those that actually, you know, want to be artists and, you know, want to actually pursue this as a career and be art-related fields, is do it. Don't let anybody tell you no. I mean, your drive and your tenacity and everything that the Marine Corps or military service fostered in you will help you succeed, even if you're an independent artist or if you're as an artist with an art-related company. That will help you succeed in the long run as well. Yeah. So a big thing, though, one big, huge thing that I really do with my company is, through our career resources is the VA, vocational rehabilitation especially, they don't recognize art-related career fields as jobs, which is fucking atrocious to me because, like me, I can't sit behind a desk. I can't sit behind a desk all day. I mean, I go nuts. Like, I have to go and do art, but I sit behind the desk because, I'm really passionate about this and, it's fun for me to do this. But, there's a lot of veterans out there that can't sit behind a desk and do 9-to-5 jobs. They need to be working with their hands. They need to be doing something. And that's really where we step in, is we help veterans find art-related career fields where, they're using their creativity. They're using their hands to actually make a product that they can be proud of.
Now, is there a way to manipulate that possibly, like with like graphic arts or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? To kind of game the system almost?
Yeah. There's actually a veteran here. He was kind of in the same boat that I was with Voc Rehab. He actually wanted to be an animator. He wants to do like digital animation, like you see on Pixar, that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
VA was like, no, we're not going to pay for you to, go be a cartoonist or, whatever the hell they told him. So he went in and said he wanted to be a graphic designer. But when he got into school, he just changed his degree over to animation. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's that way of doing it as well. So, but, with what I've learned with Voc Rehab, though, if you really do want to pursue the arts, don't let them tell you no. I mean, just give them the finger and just pursue it. I mean, that's really the biggest thing you can do. And one thing that I do, like, really that I do with my career resources, a big thing, especially people that are interested in going into higher education in the arts, it fucking kills me watching veterans go to those for-profit art institutes, those AI commercials that you see on TV.
Yes.
It's such garbage. They make up their own accreditation. And part of their business plan, 10% of the money they get in has to come from post 9/11 GI Bill. It's like written in there that they have to have a certain number of veterans attend their program that they just fucking make up. And I've known so many people that went to those for-profit AIs and try to transfer over to like Kansas City Art Institute or Chicago or RISD, and they don't even recognize it. And the biggest thing that I really do tell veterans that do want to pursue, art-related field and go into these art institutions is you can get into RISD, you can get into Chicago Art Institute, you can get into KCAI, and that's where we step in. We help these guys build portfolios, how to get into these types of schools and really how to excel in these types of schools. Because, you get a degree from one of these major art institutions, you can do anything. You can absolutely do anything. That stigma of the starving artist is such bullshit. I mean, you're a starving artist when you're in college or when you're at the school because, you have to pay for your materials and you're paying out the ass. I mean, KCAI, fuck, man, it's $36,000 a year to go there.
Right.
And, these guys can do it. And when you get a degree from here, I mean, you literally can do anything you want. If you want to go into business, you can do it. And you'll even have a leg up by being a creative thinker. If you want to get into art-related career field and being a veteran, you're going to have that tenacity to actually excel in it. So, I mean, I really do encourage people, if they want to do it, do it. Don't, sit there and second guess yourself or whatever, because I know with me, art, if I'm not doing art, I am depressed. I get anxiety attacks. I fucking go nuts. And, people force themselves into careers they don't want to do, and that's just, it's idiotic to me. You're going to make your life worse because you're going to hate your fucking job. You're going to do this. Like, just an example, I have he's actually a former Marine Lieutenant Colonel that's actually getting my help. He's a writer. He writes grants for the Department of Education, and he emailed me and he goes, I fucking hate my job. He's like, I fucking hate my job. I sit here and write these stupid ass grants all day, and it's not the type of writing I want to do. And, I sit there and tell him, like, then don't do it. You will find a way to be successful. You will find a way to thrive in that setting. You just you got to let go of those reservations that you have and just dive into it.
Yeah, man. I have a guy that I've worked with earlier. It was about a month and a half ago, because in my work as a peer support specialist, a friend of a friend had put him in touch with me, and now he is using his GI Bill like the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And people just don't realize that the resources are out there, and if that's something that they really want to do, the GI Bill especially will pay for you to go to school just about anywhere.
Oh yeah.
And if you're into the art or fashion, or which again is art, you can go anywhere with it. So I just think it's awesome that what you guys are doing.
Joe, do you have any websites that veterans, if they're interested, can go to? Do you have any links for our listening audience?
Yeah, I mean, I could put my website up, and that, if they're really interested in doing art or anything like that, I mean, they should definitely get in contact with me. How
can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can contact me at joe@evacart.com, so evacart.com. They can also check out our website, evacart.com. You can hit me up on Facebook. We're on there as well. And I really encourage you. We have resources out there, and, I can definitely help you out, because that's a big reason why I started this company is, I really, even though I'm running the business, now, I want to step away from it and really focus on talking to each individual veteran that gets in contact with me, and really, sitting down with them and figuring out really what their aspirations are and what we can do to, make that happen.
Fantastic. And that's evacart.com, the email address joe@evacart.com, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. Gents, do we have any saved rounds? Any other questions that we've got from Mr. Williams here before we sign off?
No, man, you're just awesome. That's all I know.
I actually got another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just curious. Things seem to be going pretty well, and you've talked about people working with you and things like that. As a business, how many guys are you employing right now?
I've got 5 people working for me right now. And I'm actually, I got 5 people working for me right now. A big thing too is don't reinvent the wheel. That's a big thing that I got to say. And that's kind of one thing that I learned up in, EVV and Techstars was find partnerships with other organizations. We're getting ready to put out a new website, and I brought in a guy to help us do the website, but we ended up partnering with a web design firm here in Kansas City called VML. And it's really about networking as well. That's a huge aspect of having a successful business, is setting those relationships up into place and having people do the work for you. I mean, that's, we're building this, big ass art center. I mean, we're looking at a 80,000 to 100,000 square foot art center. And I have no clue about this, but, a great architecture firm here in Kansas City called Helix wants to step in and actually design everything out for us for free. And, I have actually a construction company that's getting behind us that want to do it. So, awesome. Yeah, you really gotta, for one, you when you bring in an employee, you want to make sure that it's something that they can handle and that they're really passionate about, that can really take that load off your shoulders. Then a lot of the other stuff that are just kind of one and done deals, I mean, find somebody else out there that's doing it. Like I've gotten 1,000 no's before I got a yes. So being able to sit there and be able to take the no's and just know eventually somebody's going to want to be your partner and somebody's going to want to be able to help you out. So that's definitely an important part of it, networking.
Yeah. The big facility you're talking about, is that going to be the Iron Wheel Studios?
Actually, yeah, we're going to be changing the name completely. it's probably going to be the USAA Art Center. That's one thing we discovered is to get this built, shit, I'll let anybody put their name up there. They give me the $20 million we need to do it. So,
you sell out.
Well, I mean, it's great. That's why I love like being able to have USAA. I mean, what they do for veterans already is, fantastic. So, I mean, it's just about finding other organizations that have similar principles and same morals that you do, and just being able to use those networking. I mean, that's kind of the big thing. But the art center, I mean, that's going to be incredible once we get that in. I mean, once again, we'll have all those studios. We're actually going to have a residency program. We'll actually bring in disabled veterans and teach them how to make art with their disabilities.
Hell yes.
That's awesome.
Hell yes. Joe, awesome mission, dude. You're doing great things out there and adding value to the world. We really appreciate you coming and sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me on. I'd love to come back.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, man.
You can get in touch with Joe at evacart.com. Check out the website, evacart.com. If you're a veteran, you're interested in getting out there, I very much so welcome you. And listeners, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Give us your comments. Tell us how we can, not suck or do better, or who else you want us to interview. And if you're a Marine or an FMF corpsman who happens to be adding value to the world, we want to have you join the conversation, be our guest. Yeah, so keep on listening. Cue the music.